Well, two events over the past week got me to start wondering about whether we are, for the first time, going to seriously start looking at some of the social and political contradictions we continue to live with. The first one, and I'm sure many of you didn't even notice it, took place on Friday. It was one of the regular meetings of the alliance partners, that is the ANC, the Congress of South African Trade Unions, COSATU, the South African Communist Party, and the National Civics Organisation, SANCO. They get together regularly, discuss all sorts of issues. What made this meeting different was the fact that they unanimously came to the conclusion to condemn what is happening in the dictatorship of Swaziland. They called for democracy in Swaziland, they called for political prisoners to be released, and there are many of them in Swaziland. They actually pushed for a democratic change, transformation and transition in Swaziland. But only hours, now this is of course the whole alliance, this is the governing body of the country, but only hours after this statement and this meeting, there was a wedding, a massive and lavish wedding, traditional wedding, of that young political princeling, the gargantuan Kulubusa, the nephew of President Jacob Zuma. It was a matter of uniting, they said, the Zulu and the Swazi nations. It was a matter of bringing the two together because he married one of the nieces of King Mswati III of Swaziland. Now, attending that wedding were many cabinet ministers, ANC cabinet ministers, leading ANC members as well. So here we have the contradiction really thrown right up there into sharp, sharp relief between what we really have of medieval times, a feudal democracy, a feudal monarchy, and democracy on the other side. It would set us, if, for example, the alliance does pursue this, on a diplomatic collision course with Swaziland, and perhaps that is overdue. It's also, because it was Kulubusa, another slap in the face of nearly 5,000 Aurora miners who are still waiting for their pay nearly 5 years down the line. And at least one of them has committed suicide, having lost house, car, and everything that he owned. These are sharp, sharp contradictions between what we have and rightly and justly hailed as a great liberal constitution, democratic constitution, egalitarian constitution, and at the same time we have the feudal reality in many of our rural areas. For example, again in the links, we had King Zwelithini Bekuzulu a few months ago, who again married into the Dlamini clan of Swaziland. Now both Mswati and Zwelithini have eyes on a lot of real estate, a lot more real estate than they already have. Of course, however, Zwelithini is a state-paid, or state servant, we should say, paid monarch, but his cost to the taxpayer is about 63 million rand a year. Mswati doesn't have that trouble. He doesn't have a problem with land reform either, because he uses the national treasury very much like his own personal piggy bank. With this demand now by the alliance calling for democracy in Swaziland, and the fact that the government has intervened on the basis of democracy in Lesotho, why should they not intervene in Swaziland? But we cannot have double standards. We then have to also look at what is happening in the rural areas, the rural reality of South Africa, where many people live in a patriarchal and feudal manner. We have to challenge that. These are questions that have to be asked. Now, you may not think they matter to you if you live in an urban area. They do. It's a matter of which direction we're going in. We have to make a decision, and we have to know where we are going. Are we going to go on the route to democracy, or are we going to go towards some form of autocracy? Very, very important questions. And that's what I shall focus on in my Inside Labour column this week, which you can read on this platform, Fin24, tomorrow, and in the business section in print and City Press on Sunday. Also, love to hear your comments as per usual. And from me, well, sorry, I should actually say those comments, send them to the editor at fin24.com. Editor at fin24.com. And for me, that's all for this week. Cheers.